Alrighty, welcome everybody to the first week of our summer Tech Bytes programs. Although it's the second week of our summer programs, it's going to be the first week of our web development Bell Day program, a new Tech Bytes program which we are starting here at the Schaumburg Library over the summer months in order to bring more technology content to you guys. This month we've unpacked a bunch of new courses, which we'll do a quick recap of today. But today's gonna be the first week and first day of us diving into a new concept in the summer of web development, and more specifically, learning about how we can solve problems and things of that sort with this idea of web dev. So as always, guys, thank you so much for coming out here today for the first week. It's nice to see some new faces, and hopefully we'll be continuing to see you guys throughout our new programs as well. But first things first, we're gonna start off with some quick introductions of who we are. My name, guys, is Rayan Siddiqui. I'm not a senior at Cohen. I was about to say I'm a senior at Cohen High School. That's going to, like we were just talking about before, it's going to take some getting used to. But I graduated from Cohen High School this about 2-3 weeks ago. And this upcoming fall, I will be going to the University of Illinois at Chicago, majoring in, you might guess, computer science. I look forward to doing that. And here's a quick picture of me from graduation. Over the past couple of years, have done a bunch of cool things with computer programming, and hopefully looking forward to opening your guys' eyes of what you can do as well.
And hello guys, my name is Labdi, and just like Ryan, I graduated from Conant High School this May, and I will be going to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign for computer science. And here's a little quote that I found that I find really hilarious. It says, "Roses are red, violets are blue, unexpected break on line 32. It's just the way, it's really funny because that's how errors just come at us. It's so subtle, but it's a huge, it gives, it requires hours of work. So yeah. Okay, Chase, Ryan is carrying a ton of things while Lobby is holding nothing. Yeah. It's just we took pictures at different places.
Different times probably.
Yeah.
Chase. That rhymes too, Chase. All right, dropping your own poems out here in the chat. Well, that is who we are, guys. It was great getting to know some of the new faces, new people we have here out today as well. But usually how we run these courses is that we start off with a quick little agenda of making sure that we know what we will be doing. And since today is the first week, we're going to be doing some quick introductions. We've got that finished with already. And then reviewing what this course is all about, along with some of our other summer programs, and then making our way towards seeing how we will be tackling problems and sort of seeing that mirror of how we solve problems in algorithmic programming, one of our programs throughout January through May, and how it will be similar and different compared to our web development Bell Day going on this summer.
All right, but before we do go on, we just want to make sure that everyone has the Google Classroom code. And if everyone is in the Google Classroom, I know Paritosh was asking about this earlier, and Rayan did drop the link in the chat. Let me copy and paste it once more or are you doing? Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah. All right, so Rayan is sharing his screen, and here, I'll put the link in the chat. There we go. Just click on this link and you'll join the Google Classroom. This is where we put all of our materials, not only for Web Development Bell Day, but for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or not Thursdays, but all project development and MIT App Inventor. You'll get our videos, so what we do each day, as well as the resources and what we covered. Yeah.
Exactly. And on the topic of resources, guys, as a quick introduction, in this Web Development Bell Day, we are going to be shifting our way into a new programming language. For those of us who were here with us through January through May, we were covering the language of Python. We'll be talking more about that. But as a quick little introduction, we'll be talking about and using a new language called JavaScript. Now, if you haven't heard that or are confused as to what is JavaScript or a programming language, last year in July, we started a program called Introduction to Web Development. And we spent a solid 6 months covering what the language of JavaScript is and learning about all the basics involved with JavaScript. You guys can, if you go to the Google Classroom, go to the classwork tab, scroll down to the JavaScript materials, you'll find that it says finished because that course is not finished. And you'll be able to see a bunch of our videos from there. If you click any week, you'll see the video link along with what we covered that day. Now, in this course, as Lavi and I will be talking about, we're not going to be going as introductory. We're going to be sort of covering up what we need to know for the first couple of weeks as we tackle new problems. But if you want to learn more about what the JavaScript language entails and more details about it, we highly recommend going back towards the Google Classroom, looking at some old links we posted, looking at some old videos, look at a couple minutes, honestly, on each video will be probably fine for you guys, and you'll be able to get caught up. But as always, as we're going through, any questions are always appreciated. We want to make sure that we are all on the same page going forward. And do let us know if you have any trouble getting in, but I think we are all good. We've got a bunch of people signed up who aren't even coming out. Wow. All right. Drake asking, what is the class code? Drake, right there. QAF.
I will put it in the chat just in case. So QA.
On my iPad right now, so I don't really have the classroom, but I just took a screenshot of it, so I can put it on my computer.
All right, cool.
Sounds good.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Alrighty, and as guys we were saying earlier, we do have a bunch of new programs for this summer, which you guys hopefully are aware of by now on the Schaumburg Libraries event page. You can sign up for everything which has the name Tech Bytes in it. Every Monday, like today, we're going to be doing Web Development Bell Day, where we're going to be tackling new problems with the coding language of JavaScript, seeing the differences and similarities between this and algorithmic programming. Then every Tuesday, something new which we started is MIT App Inventor, where we're going to be creating actual apps, which we are able to first code and program on our computers, laptop, desktop, and then use our phones to actually use the apps we made. It's pretty cool. That will be happening tomorrow, so be sure to come out as we start to make more way into that MIT App Inventor class. And then every Wednesday, we'll be creating new projects with JavaScript. Instead of tackling individual problems, we'll be creating big projects. So to come out for that, we have a Google Classroom post as well with some ideas if you guys want to drop. So stay tuned for Wednesday as we do our reveal for the project and we start working on it as well. And then every other Thursday, we have a fun little program called Video Gaming Hour, where we come out, it's more relaxed. We learn how certain games were made, and then we end up playing those games as well. So see you guys this Thursday on that as well. And then all these programs, as a reminder, are starting at 1 p.m. So be here at 1 so we can get started as soon as possible.
Yep. All right, so let's get into what is Web Development Bell Day. So basically we got that name from a bell ringer, but doing that in web development. And today we basically apply JavaScript and HTML skills, not much of the CSS because that's not logic. So basically we apply the logic of JavaScript and HTML to solve problems. So think of these as math problems, but no math, or close to no math, but instead of using like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, you use code. So you actually type in code and then print stuff out to answer the question that is given. And we will be looking at a sample problem. And if we do have time and enough like brain power left, we can also solve that problem today, just to show you guys what the process looks like. But yeah, that is web development. And I just want to add in, both Rayan and I, the reason why we added this kind of aspect to Tech Bytes, even from January, was because this whole algorithmic thinking, where you think of the algorithms to solve a problem, that is what companies actually require for you to get into those. Like if you want to pass an interview, that's what you will be asked, to solve a problem in the most efficient and fast way. And I know that's very far from where we are right now, but starting that from right now will help us understand the importance of that and get closer to our goal to actually becoming really cool software engineers in our lives. But yeah.
Exactly. So I know that we do have people who are here from our January through May programs. You guys want to share your experiences about what we did in algorithmic programming? Chase, Avanish, Drake.
You just tackle like daily problems like you might need, like just want to do like a simple calculation. You like you'll like code it in like this website called Replit, and then you'll just like understand like what you need to do and like how do you like type it correctly and like how to fix bugs and errors and stuff like that.
Didn't we do like that thing where like we made our own pandemic and then like we coded like when people die and then when people get born? Or yeah, and then or was that the other one, the one on Wednesday?
Yeah, that was project development where we actually create projects. We'll be doing that on Wednesdays throughout the summer too.
Oh, okay.
Coded our own pandemic. That would be interesting. I'd like to see that happen. Hopefully not. Well, yeah, so great. You guys are sharing some ideas as well. So main idea is we're going to be continuing to tackle problems, like I already said, and using a new language now. So here's going to be the plan of how we're going to be running this. We're going to first have a problem you start off with. After I think we're going to do a weekly debate for like 5 minutes, and then we'll do our problem. Talk about what the problem is asking about. Once we understand what the problem is asking us after we dissected it, then we're going to whiteboard. We're going to visualize what we have to do in order to be able to fully code the problem, and then wrapping it up with the third and final step, writing the actual code, which will allow us to accomplish the task at hand. And hopefully by the end, our goal is to have no errors, but more likely than not, as you guys have seen probably through the memes and our experiences over the past 6 months, errors are bound to happen. So we'll be going through those together. Live debugging is always a part of the process.
Yep. All right, so before we do get into that process that Rayan just talked about, learning about the problem, think about how to solve it, and then actually solving and using code, we'll have to review a couple or several topics in JavaScript, because remember, we are doing this, the major change from the January or the spring programs to the summer programs is we are now using JavaScript and HTML instead of Python, the language we've been working on for the past 5 months. So we'll need to review the syntax or how to write like specific things like variables, conditionals, all of that cool stuff in the language of JavaScript.
Exactly. And Chase, thank you for dropping the link. As you guys can see, that's all of our videos. There's 100 probably some by now. Just click the link. You can find all of our videos in our playlist and see some more in-depth review. But today, we're going to start off by doing some quick reviews of the first and most important topic, that being variables. Now, guys, variables we've talked about are essentially containers, right? They're like a box in real life in which we're able to hold items, whether that be toys, video games. It's like a box. Well, in computer programming, variables are like containers which hold values. They are able to hold many types of values, whether that be numbers, words, booleans. Now, if we were talking about the programming language of Python, right? Anybody remember in the chat want to drop how we can have a variable? Let's do this. Anybody want to drop in the chat? How do we declare a variable and set it equal to the number 10 in Python? Drop in the chat. Darn, exactly. X equals 10. Pretty simple, right? Well, in JavaScript, the language is a bit more specific. We just aren't able to declare any variable we want and set it equal to any value we want. Instead, as you guys can see towards the left, we have to say that, hey, we're writing a line of code which specifies a variable. So we have to put the shorthand form of the word variable and say var, the name of the variable, and then whatever value it equals. And then in terms of what the variable can hold, the values are still the same. We can set it equal to the number 10, any number, any string like a name, or a Boolean. Now, Boolean is something which we'll be talking about more as well, but anybody remember what a Boolean is? Darn, exactly, head on.
It sounded like a gemstone.
Gemstone. Yeah, not quite a gemstone, but it is a true or false. Darn, exactly. A Boolean is a variable which can represent an on or off, and it's that idea of whether something is true or false, and we'll be seeing how we'll be utilizing some Booleans later on today as well.
All right, I've been wanting to say this pun like for forever. Like, darn got the right answer. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I just realized that. No pun intended, I guess.
All right, on to conditional. So this kind of this is a great transition. The Boolean was a great transition onto conditionals, because conditionals use that true or false kind of decision to run an operation, basically. So basically, what you see over here on the left is if condition 01 in parentheses and then braces, open close, do something. So if condition 0, 1 is equal to true, whatever is between those braces, those first braces, let me annotate, that'll be cool. All right, so if condition 1 is true, then whatever is over here, this will execute. If condition 0, 1 is not true, that's where this else if comes in. Let me get back to red. All right, so if condition 01 is not true, that's the else part. And if condition 002 is true, then we get whatever is written over here will execute. Now they don't have anything written over here, but we just gotta imagine. That's where the documentation comes in. All right, so we got if condition 01 is true, then execute blue. Else if condition 02 is true, then execute the yellow. Else, so else meaning condition 01 and condition 02 are false, then we will execute, let's pick pink. So that's where pink comes in. So it's pretty basic if you think about it, because the words themselves, let me clear out drawings. All right, so because the words themselves are self-explanatory, like if something, then do something, else if something, do something, else do something. It's just the parentheses and the braces that we need to remember to write in this correct syntax when we do code. So before moving on, do we have any questions? Because this is a really basic yet fundamental concept.
So
we got a no from Paritosh. Anyone else? 3? Or I'll count on 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, thanks, Chase. Go ahead.
So a lot of you covered what the code does, and that's going to be super important. And like we're going through, remember, always compare stuff which we're coding to real life analogies, right? Like we got the variables, they're like a box, right, which hold values. Conditionals, just think about them like a stoplight. If you're going on the road, right? If the light is red, car stops. If the light is green, car goes. So that's how you think about them. If certain condition is met, then certain code is run. Otherwise, different pieces of code is run. So that's the main idea, which we'll see how we code out later today as well. And now going towards a very, very important topic, which will be coming more in hand throughout these next couple of weeks, which is loops. Now, there are 2 different types of loops we've always covered. Avanish saying for and while. Exactly, Avanish. Now, we have 2 different loops which have their own purposes. We have a for loop, which we use in order to, most of the time, iterate or go over an array. An array, which we'll cover probably next week if we get to that topic, is a variable which allows us to hold multiple values, right? And we usually use a for loop when we want to access specific elements from that array. However, we also, like Avanish, exactly, examining an array, that is 100% correct. On the other hand, we also have a while loop. Now, while loop is a bit different, and it uses that idea of maybe a Boolean, or when checking if a variable has not met a certain value. Now, a while loop is moreover used when we want to keep on running a piece of code until a condition is met. So as you guys can see, the main difference is that a for loop is usually coded when we know how many times we want a specific piece of code to run. However, a while loop is run when we really don't know. It's a bit ambiguous. We aren't sure how many times our code will have to run. Like in this condition, like Bobby's annotating right there, we know if we're using a for loop, our for loop will run this piece of code inside the length of our array. So our array is maybe 10 elements long. This for loop will run 10 times. However, in a while loop, we don't know how long will our variable j be less than the number which we're looking at. And in that case, we keep on running this piece of code inside until the condition is not met anymore. Like we got a real life example right here as well. We keep our umbrella open until it stops raining. Now, we aren't meteorologists, right? We don't know when the rain will stop, right? In that case, we keep our umbrellas open until the rain will stop. However, in a for loop, if you think about it, maybe like we keep on driving our gas until it runs out of gas, right? So a for loop would be sort of that condition where keep on driving your car until there is no more gas. You know how much gas is in your car because of on this dashboard. But in a while loop, that idea of keep your umbrella open until it stops raining. So that's the main idea. Anybody have any conditional loops? Darren's saying, yep, conditional loops are going to be something which we'll look at as well. Running loops depending on when we need to and we don't need to. combining conditionals and loops will be important as well. Any other ideas, thoughts, questions you guys want to drop?
I do have something. Just to point out in the example that's on the screen, I think we did cover this in the spring sessions and even last year too. Some of you might know this, but what do you guys notice? What is this while loop? I know it's a while loop, but what's special about it? And what, I mean, compared to the for loop?
For loop, like I guess you can control it, like when you try like regarding like the repeating and examining all the array, but while always is true unless you put some condition through it.
Yeah, that's true. But specifically in this code snippet, the while loop is inside the for loop. Here's a huge hint. The while loop is inside the for loop. What do we call this while loop then? It's a something while loop.
How about this? We'll do a quick little game of.
Oh, hey, man.
All right, so let's get some guesses. That idea of having a loop inside of a loop.
Ah, darn one. I see.
Oh, darn, I already got it. Yep, so darn, got it again. Okay, that's bad. Nested for loop. That is 100% correct. And
nice.
Why we call. There we go.
Why did you stop it and then you did it again?
I accidentally hit pause.
Oh.
Yep, so like Darren is saying, it's a nested for loop, and the reason is because our second while loop is nested inside of the initial while loop and initial for loop. Now, on the topic of seeing differences and similarities, right, we're probably noticing on this for loop, when we wanted to create a for loop in Python, it was much different, right? The syntax. And you remember what it was? If we wanted to use a for loop which ran 10 times? Well, I think that's what we'll do today. We'll show you guys a sample problem, and then we'll do a quick little seeing the differences between a for loop and variables and conditionals in Python and JavaScript to wrap it up with.
Yep. All right. So this is a sample problem of what we will see on a typical Bell day in web development. This is I'd say it's more towards the easier side since we are trying to give you guys a challenge. So what this problem says is make a program to find the smallest value from a list of numbers given. So here's the list of numbers. It has, I think, 25 numbers. That's what I put in. But basically, we want to program or create a code snippet, which will print out the smallest number. And although we could code this problem today, it would be more helpful for us, as Rayan said, that we can compare Python and JavaScript syntax. So it's more clear to us what we have to write down or code or type when we want to, for example, do a for loop or conditional and all that. But before we do move on, hold on. Any of the anyone who was from the spring session, do you guys have any idea? Let's give this like 2 minutes. Do you guys have any idea how to code this or what you guys will use? Remember, we used to go over what we'll use, like variables, conditionals, loops, arrays, functions, all that cool stuff. So do you guys know what we will use and how we will use it? You can just throw out ideas and we'll go from there.
Input?
Input? Yeah. So we'll need a list of numbers, definitely.
An array.
Perfect. So that input will be saved in an array.
For loop.
And why for loop, Avnish?
It's like it said in the past, like you want to iterate over an array, and like we have a list of numbers here, and you want to pick the smallest number.
Perfect. What else?
So we've got the idea of going over the array figured out. Now we have to figure out how do we find the smallest value? Are we going to be doing some comparisons? And if so, what will we use?
Graham basically said it.
So if we're going over our array, right, we gotta compare numbers to see if we found the smallest value. So we're probably gonna have to hold an initial smallest value in a variable. But say the smallest value is 15 initially, right? Because that's the first number. I'm going through 19 is not bigger than 15. What did I just do there? I made a comparison. In order to do that comparison, we got to utilize a topic we covered today as well.
The second topic.
When I'm comparing to see if this number is less than or greater than the next number. You guys are saying all of the top.
If that number, if. Yeah, there we go.
Actually, a conditional when we're making our comparisons between numbers to find the greatest or the smallest number. And that will wrap it up. And along with, of course, any program which we will ever create, the most basic foundation, everything will be variables, of course. That is something which we'll always be using. But that's going to be the 4 main topics needed in order to make this program. And it might be next week we might just start off with, or if you guys want to come in with, some of you guys want to already finish it up, and we can go over the finished solution. So think about how we'll solve this. We have the ideas. But for now, how about...
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
What will we use to code this? Like on a website or a...
There you go. Funny you asked. So this is going to be the website which we'll be using in order to do all of our code. It is called jsfiddle.net, and we'll drop the link in the chat as well. You guys are able to sign up for an account, so I would highly recommend you guys do that, because then you can save all of the coding projects we make every week. So that's going to be helpful. So as you guys are getting over to the website, let us know.
All right, I'm in it.
All right. Everybody else good? All right, so as we were talking about this first week, we're not going to be tackling a specific problem, but we will start off with that sample problem next week. But what we want to do right now is go over some quick differences between what we've learned in Python and what we've learned in, are going to be doing more with in JavaScript. So right now I'm on a website we used in our spring programs called Replit, and this is where we did all of our Python coding. So first things first, we'll do a quick little, just showing you guys the differences in variables. So say I wanted to create a variable which held the number 10 in Python. Simple, x equals 10. Now if I switch my window and go to JavaScript and go right here, if I wanted to create a variable which held the number 10, we would just do var x equals 10. And along with that, it's a good practice in JavaScript to always end every line of code with something called a semicolon. It's good practice. Highly recommend you guys do that. Although it's not always recorded in JavaScript, in other languages like Java, you guys will notice it's a big pain. You have to make sure you're always including the semicolon. In Python, not so much.
What's that white thing?
Yeah, so this is where all of our output will be held. Remember,
Oh, the console?
Yep, so similar to a console. So if I hit run, we have this console here, right, the output box of all of our code. In JavaScript, remember, since it's used to make actual websites and physical products, we have a screen where we are able to see all of our whole website being created. So say if I wanted to create a button, this is something we'll be doing in product development. But if I made a button and I called our button go, you would see a button pop up right there. So much more visually focused, as we discussed with JavaScript. All right, so we've seen how the differences in variables are. How about we see now some conditionals? So in Python, if I wanted to say, check if our variable value is greater than 5. Anybody remember the code, which we would do?
Conditional. If
Yep, so it would be if our variable value is greater than 5.
x is greater than 5, then what do you actually do? Like it examines each number in the array, right?
Yeah, but for now, we're just doing a one single variable.
Oh, okay.
Yep, darn thing, if x is equal to 5 and greater than 5, we can just print number is greater than 5. If this condition is not met, what would I do?
Else
Yep.
Then this print is it's not greater than 5.
Yep. Now if I hit run, you will see the first print statement go because 10 is greater than 5, number is greater than 5. Now, if I transition over to JavaScript, you guys will see that it's going to be pretty similar. So if I do if x is greater than 5, instead of using colons like we've gotten used to in JavaScript, all the colons will be replaced with brackets. So that's going to be something you're getting used to. Always use brackets instead of colons, and those will be... Chase, you can't get on the website. Maybe try hitting the link again. Let us know if that issue continues next week as well. And so yeah, so if we're using conditional, it's pretty much the same. Instead of a colon, we're using a bracket, and then we can just alert to the user that number is greater than 5. If I comment this out, hit run, we are able to see that our number is greater than 5, which is why we're alerted this first line of code. Now notice how alerts are a bit different than actually writing something in the console. We're able to see our whole screen freeze up. We have an alert with whatever text we wrote, compared to Python, where we're only able to see it happening in the console. And then last topic, which we're going to be going over, is for loops. Lavi, do you want to go over it?
Yeah, definitely.
I can give you, so I was looking at this, I can give you control to my screen. Does that work? Try it.
Ooh, let's see. Yeah.
right.
Holy, what? That's so cool. Okay,
Wait, what?
let's see. Okay, so basically you guys are seeing Rayan's screen, but I'm gonna control it. So this is Python, for loops. How do we do for loops? Now, right, Rayan did ask this a couple of slides ago. Do we remember or recall how we used for loops? I'm gonna start typing slowly, but if you do remember, just shout it out. So for
I in range.
Perfect. And then in parentheses, we just put a number, 10. And this will go on, or this loop will iterate how many times then?
10.
Yeah. Let's say print, let's just print I. And if we do run this, ooh, yeah. It goes from 0 to 9 because that's how coding numbers work. Everything starts from 0, or mostly everything does. And yeah, that is for loops in Python. Now these are like very basic. There can be very like weird applications of for loops, like for each loops and all that, but we won't get into that right away. We're just gonna teach you guys that like through the problems, but let's take a look at what for loops are in JavaScript. All right. Okay, first of all, I am amazed by like this functionality that I can edit right on screen. This is amazing. All right. So for loops, what we said. So so this is different from Python. But the cool thing is that this syntax that we do use in JavaScript for loops, it's used in Java as well. So you you guys will see the same or similar syntax in Java, and that's pretty cool. So you don't have to remember something new. But yeah, so for and then parentheses. Oh no. All right, okay, cool. Okay, so for parentheses and then var I. So first we have to set our variable. So remember in
Wait, don't you?
Python.
Oh, I thought you have to do var x.
So that's the cool part. I is just a variable name. I can do var lobd. So for lobd in range 10 and then print lobd. People just use I because it's, I guess, a short
Yeah, it's just
short
like
variable. Yeah. So that's really that's a cool question, and here's the answer. You can put in any variable name that you would want, but we usually put I. So over here in Python, we did for I in range. I was our variable, but in JavaScript, we actually have to define our variable. So set it equal to 0 first. For var I equals to 0, add a semicolon, so like kind of a wall. And then the second statement we do is when do we want to repeat this for loop until? So that's going to be until, what did I use? I is greater than 10, or sorry, less than 10. Right?
Yep.
Let's just say, okay, less than 10. And then the third statement, so basically for loops have 3 statements. First, we define the variable, we set how many, how much we want to run until, and then finally, we just do I++. So if you guys recall, some of you might, but I++ means, or any variable plus plus means you just add 1 to it. Now, instead of plus plus, I can say +1 or +2. That'll be, that'll just state whether I'm gonna go from 0 to 1 or 0 to 2. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm just gonna keep plus plus because that's the notation everyone usually uses for single step iterations. But yeah, all right. So let's alert. Actually, let's just console.log. That way we'll learn. Okay, console. Wait, Rayan, do you still have control over your screen?
Yeah, I can still move too. Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, console.log, and then let's just print I. So in Python, we used print to print in the console. Well, in JS Fiddle, or in JavaScript, we use console.log because we want to log whatever is inside these parentheses in our console. So that's just a different syntax, but it does the same thing. Now, this console.log is different from the alert statement. The alert statement basically made a whole window on your page, what we see on various websites, but console.log will come up over here when we do open this up. So let me run this. And if I do not, all right, hope this works. Close. And let's see.
Hit the 10, I think.
Where is the, oh, it's
The
20.
20.
I see. All right, cool. Okay. Why is this in red? That's just scaring me, but oh well, it works. Yeah, it works. So as you guys can see, the numbers go from 0 all the way to 9. Now I ran the thing 2 times, so that's why it goes from 0 to 9 2 times, but we get the point, right? Both of these for loops in JavaScript and in Python do the exact same things, but the syntax or the way we type it in is different because these 2 languages are totally different. So yeah, one last kind of review for JavaScript for loops, because it is a kind of complicated way to write them, but once you get a hold of them, you won't forget it ever. So for, and then in parentheses, we put 3 statements. First, we define when we want to start our variable at. So var I equals to 0. We want to start our number at 0. The second one is where we want to stop at. So we want to go until I is less than 10. And then the final third statement is our step. So do we want to increase I by 1 or 2 or 3? If we do I++, it's basically saying I plus 1. And yeah, that's basically it. That's for loops. Now, let me review while loops really quickly because we are running out of time. All right, so while loops in Python was basic, while true, or no, I will not do while true. I remember if you do this syntax, while true do something, this loop will go on forever and it will break your program because that true will never change. And we don't want to practice that. That's why we're gonna make a, we're gonna make a variable to true. Let's start with true. And, or let's not make a Boolean at all. Let's make an integer is equal to 0. And then while, let's set a statement. So while integer is less than 10, then, oh, I did that JavaScript mistake. Remember, Python is colon enter and JavaScript is braces enter always. Colon in function declaration, loops and conditionals, and then braces in JavaScript is for conditionals, loops, and I'll show you guys while loop too. So yeah, while integer is less than 10, we're going to add 1 to integer. So integer is equal to integer plus 1. Integer, all right. And let's just print integer. So this will work just like that for loop because we're gonna iterate 10 times, but I just want to show you guys the syntax of the while loop. All right. Let's run this and ta-da. All right, so this first running, that's the for loop, and then I put a break at line 14, that's this break. And then after that, it goes from 1 all the way to 10. And that's because I add 1 and then print. So pretty cool. This while loop will run until integer is not less than 10. So let's go on to JS Fiddle. Last but not least, let's do a while loop. Now, while loops are pretty similar because there's nothing other than like while. So while we have, let's do the same thing. So var integer, that's our name, is equal to 0. So while integer is less than 10. And remember, in JavaScript, it's braces, not colons. So open braces, close braces, enter. And then inside here, we're going to, first, what did we do? We printed, so we're just going to console.log integer. And I think in here we added 1 to integer and then printed it. So let's add 1 to the variable integer. And here's something that I like in JavaScript that we did cover in the for loop is all you have to do is integer plus plus. That's it. And let me add in my semicolons. So that's a really cool thing that you guys might see in like code that other people write. Is if you want to say integer is equal to integer plus 1, just do integer plus plus, and that basically means the same thing. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at the console. All right, so actually, let me put in a break. Console.log. Add in some break. All right, and run that. Close. Cool. So we see our break over here. So before the break is the for loop, and after the break is our output for the while loop. And we get the same output that we got in Python. So 1 through 10 integers printed out nicely. But the only difference from Python to JavaScript is that you will use braces instead of the colon. And finally, I just want to
I did like var integer minus 0, but it shows like a red underline under it.
What did you say? So integer
you did
minus 0?
Yeah, I did var integer minus 0, but it says there's an error. Like
so this integer is equal to 0. I'm defining. It's not integer minus 0, it's integer equal to 0.
It looks
We
like
always,
a minus.
yeah,
on
I
the-
can get really, oh, there we go. Perfect. All right, cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
close, like it's a minus sign, but the minus sign has a brother on top of it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So back to where I was getting at. One more difference from Python to JavaScript, something that we did cover, I think in the last 2 to 3 weeks before the summer sessions, is that Python is sensitive to how much you tab in. I'm not sure what it's like called professionally, but if I tab in an extra tab, I will get an error. So we really need to make sure that every line is tabbed in correctly. However, in JavaScript, that really doesn't matter. I can tab in this line 8 how many ever times I want to, and it will still run without giving me any errors. So that's something I like about JavaScript, that you can write anywhere you want as long as your syntax is correct. So tabs, spaces, of them don't really matter, but that's a huge thing that we need to remember when we do transition from Python to JavaScript. So yeah, these are the 3 things that we did cover today. So variables, conditional, and loops. Do we have any questions?
Alrighty, I'm gonna take back that control.
Oh man.
That's cool how the code behind this should be interesting.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so a lot of new things which we'll be going over and recaps which we'll be making in the coming weeks as well. But those are going to be the main differences between Python and JavaScript. And next week we'll be starting to go into functions. The difference in that is a quick little difference, and making our way towards our first problem next week. So like we said earlier, if you guys do want anybody wants to try this problem out on their own, what we'll get started off with as a mini bell ringer for next week with our second week of Web Development Bell Day. But other than that, that is going to be bringing us to the end for the first session of Web Development Bell Day. Hopefully you guys had a great time and are looking forward to tackling more problems. As a reminder, we do have MIT App Inventor tomorrow and then Project Development Wednesday, where we'll be starting our first project. We hope to catch you guys there. Other than that, guys, take care. We'll catch you guys on the next one. See you guys.
All right,
Bye.
bye, class.